Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics. I'm Egberto Willies, host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, folks. We have a special guest. That special guest is Rashad Robinson. We interviewed him earlier, on Sunday for playing today. We're also playing this show, parts of this show, along with the interview with El Señor, what's his name? Jim Renecci from that I interviewed yesterday here, but he's on KPFT 90.1 FM. So if you're listening on air, you'll be listening to both Rashad Robinson and Mr. Jim, Congressman Jim Renacci. But right now here on the internet, meaning Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope Live, and Twitch, we're going to start out with Rashad. But before we do El Señor Rashad, what we're going to do is I want to go over a few things. First of all, let's go ahead and show you let's go ahead and talk about what the show is going to be, and then we'll move on to talk about what occurred today at that hearing. Anyhow, today, the title of the show is President of Color of Change, Rashad Robinson, talks about Ahmaud Arbery and more. Well, of course, we'll go through our COVID-19 update as usual. Rashad Robinson, Color of Change President, discusses the COVID-19 impact on POCs and marginalized workers. We cover Ahmaud Arbery's murder. Rashad Robinson is a colorful and effective speaker. Here is he is one of the presidents of the most important organizations relative to centralizing on people of color. I mean, he wants everybody as a part of the organization, but this organization centralizes on people of color. Why? Because we can see some centralization that's needed. We take a look at how COVID affects people. We take a look at how people are treated who have COVID after having gone to the hospitals. And then, of course, we go through the same standard crap we had to go through from Trayvon Martin right back now to Ahmaud Arbery. We go back to people not being taken into account, where, in effect, who becomes, I hate to use the word victims because, damn it, I'm not a victim. Many of us are not victims, etc. But you understand what we are trying to say here. So those are the things we're going to talk about. But to get started, you know, my brother, Bernie Sanders. My brother, Bernie Sanders, made me proud today again at that hearing. He made me once again proud. Let's see, before I get here, let's see our Facebook. Make sure our Facebook feed is going fine. Yes, our Facebook feed is going fine. And all the others are going fine. I want to play you this by El Señor, the one and only, my guy, Sanders. Check it out. Let's see, did I need to do it this way? Bear with me 1 second, because what I want to do is put Sanders on the full screen. And I think the way I imported it, I didn't quite import it that way. So let me go ahead and import it that way while I speak to you here, because I think I did it too small. I did it as a TV screen, which I want to actually show the whole thing. So let's go ahead and do it that way. Here we go, El Señor Sanders.
Do you think we should make that vaccine when hopefully it is created available to all regardless of income? Or do you think that poor people and working people should be last in line for the vaccine?
I'm sorry, Senator, were you asking me?
Yes, I was, sir. Yes, I was.
No, my office is one of the offices committed to serving the underserved, and we need to be absolutely certain that if a vaccine or an effective therapeutic or preventive is available, that it reaches all segments of society regardless of their ability to pay or any other social determinants of health that there may be.
Good. So when you're telling the American people today that regardless of income, every American will be able to gain access to that vaccine when it comes.
They should gain access to it. I don't control, I think
you represent an administration that makes that decision.
I will certainly advocate that everyone is able to receive the vaccine regardless of income or any other circumstance.
Let me just switch.
Senator Sanders.
I'm sorry. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How difficult was that question? How difficult was that question? The only thing Sanders wanted to do was to put the nation on notice. In other words, what Bernie Sanders is trying to say there is, oh yes, there is going to be a vaccine. But that vaccine, we want to have it on record that it is guaranteed that everybody, poor, rich, or whomever, will get the vaccine. But in our country where we have an evil healthcare system, a healthcare system where monopolies are in command, a healthcare system where those who make the most money are those people who are providing not the service of healthcare, but using healthcare as just another con within a capitalist system. That is what Bernie Sanders was trying to get at. Will we guarantee, the virus doesn't know if you're rich or poor, but the virus can be used to make sure that we get rid of the poor. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, we wouldn't do that. Shall I remind you about the Tallahassee, the Tuskegee experiment? Oh, come on, folks. Let's not put it beyond the Trump administration that says, hey, here is a way we can get rid of the downtrodden. We just have to go ahead when we get this vaccine put together and ensure that certain people have more equal access to that vaccine. Hey, great population control, right? We get rid of the undesirables, don't we? I mean, I know that is kind of far-fetched, but what I'm trying to show you here is that's the kind of system that we have here. Once Bernie Sanders says, is that vaccine going to be available to absolutely everybody irrespective of who you are, irrespective of your financial status? That was an easy answer. The president should have called up immediately when he heard that guy respond. When he heard the admiral respond, the president should have called the admiral on his cell phone and said, Admiral, you should know better than that. The Trump administration would ensure that every living American citizen will get that vaccine and that we will make enough so that the world all over will have that vaccine, because we know that viruses know no borders, as we've proven with over 82,000 Americans that are dead today. But they couldn't even do that, because this is the administration that, in as much as they had 10,000 ventilators that should be built at between $2,500 and $3,200, allowed it to float to allow people to charge New York $25,000 per ventilator, up to $50,000 per ventilator. That is our healthcare system. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize our healthcare system is a system that uses your bodies to enrich a very small amount of people. That is why the Bezos of the world can have so many hundreds of billions of dollars while you have crumbs. And then we have those people who continue to defend a system that promotes that kind of inequality. And it's not that inequality is created because those guys are so much better in what they produce than you do. You're the one doing the work for them. They're just the one using their capital to maximize on your work. It's a new form of slavery, antiseptic slavery. So let's remember these concepts. Until we remember these concepts, we will continue to allow them to snow us. We will continue to allow us to frame us. We will continue to allow them to do what they do. And that is, again, slavery. Slavery is no longer color-based. Anybody who supports this system is inherently a slave, because you may not be knowingly. Well, if you listen to politics done right now, you'll understand that this current economic system creates a new kind of slavery, one that doesn't even make you realize that you're a slave. But it's great. Things are starting to get real bad when even conservatives are so concerned that it is so bad that they start speaking up. Brother Romney, Mr. 47%, had something to say. And folks, for those of you who are here for Robin, I'll be playing El Señor Robinson in a little bit, but I want you to hear Brother Romney because I was so proud of Brother Romney today. Brother Romney was a better Democrat today than Democrats. Check this out.
I understand that politicians are going to frame data in a way that's most positive politically. Of course, I don't expect that from admirals. But yesterday, you celebrated that we had done more tests and more tests per capita even than South Korea. But you ignored the fact that they accomplished theirs at the beginning of the outbreak, while we treaded water during February and March. And as a result, by March 6th, the U.S. had completed just 2,000 tests, whereas South Korea had conducted more than 140,000 tests. So partially as a result of that, they have 256 deaths and we have almost 80,000 deaths. I find our testing record nothing to celebrate whatsoever. The fact is their test numbers are going down now because they don't have the kind of outbreak we have. Ours are going up as they have to. I think that's an important lesson for us as we think about the future.
I want to follow up real quick with an additional statistic that Senator Romney talked about with regard to South Korea, and that is the fact that we are a nation that has about 6 times the population of South Korea, but yet we have about 310 times the number of deaths from this pandemic. So I think we have to be very careful in making comparisons around the world, comparing the United States to other countries.
That was one of the two smartest things that were said at that
90 seconds.
Interesting. It turns out that our Blog Talk Radio folks, if you're going to call in, we're not going to be able to use the Blog Talk Radio because evidently when I set it up for 15 minutes instead of setting it up for the entire 60 minutes. My fault, but you can always chat if you're on Facebook Live, on facebook.com/politicsdoneright. You can always reach us there and we'll take it from there. Well, anyhow, right now we're going to go immediately to El Señor Rashad. Let's see, Rashad Robinson. Let's go ahead and get busy.
I understand that politicians are going to frame data in a way that's most positive politically. Of course, I don't expect that from admirals. But yesterday you
Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. I'm here with the one and only Rashad Robinson from The Color of Change. Rashad, it's a pleasure to have you on today. How are you doing, first of all? How are things going with your good old, this real great group that you have getting things accomplished?
You know, I'm doing all right. Every single day, though, we hear all these stories of things that we want to take on. We just don't have the capacity to engage on everything. While at the same time, we are just also seeing an unprecedented number of people taking action. That sort of action rate, the people wanting to engage, the people creating their own petitions on the platform, all of that is really inspiring. And so there's the mix of all the pain that we're dealing with, but also that sort of hopefulness of people wanting to get involved and take action. And so, I feel compelled to press ahead and do all that I can in this moment.
Well, look, first of all, I want to thank you for the kind of work that you're doing because we need people out there on the front lines. And my God, you guys are always out there. I want to read you something and then get your take on it. This is what I don't remember. I think this was in a Guardian, okay? And it said as follows. Attorney Alan Tucker told Inside Edition Friday that he was responsible for releasing the footage which showed his pals Gregory and Travis McMichael engage in a fatal altercation with Mr. Arbery in Brunswick on February 23rd. I really thought releasing the video would put the truth out to the public, Tucker stated. If Arbery had just froze and hadn't done anything, then he wouldn't have been shot. When I read that, I want to hear what you have to say about that, first of all.
I think it's, in so many ways, it encapsulates sort of white supremacy in such a very clear way that this white man in the South could believe that this video was going to exonerate him, because if that Black person just knew his place, if he just followed orders of a person that wasn't in authority, wasn't, authority in any way, then nothing bad would have sort of happened to him, as if being subjected to the whims of individual white people with guns isn't bad in and of itself. And so, what I think is that it really does speak to the ways in which white folks in many places around the country, and that's not just the South,
Right.
believe that they have authority over Black people's bodies. They have authority over Black people's movements, and that looking at that video in so many ways, so many people all around the country could be outraged, but the hierarchy of racial privilege, the hierarchy of the privilege to move freely and to be a fully fledged citizen and adult, how much it is often not extended to us.
This whole week was sort of put a triple whammy on us. We had the incident with Mr. Arbery. We had the incident in Indiana where after a cop apparently decimated a young man, looked and said, I guess it's going to be a closed casket, which tells you the kind of empathy, emotions that these guys have. And then we have this COVID attack that is attacking the people that are first responders and people of color because of the jobs that they have. It's almost like a huge battle to be fought. I like to talk about problems that we know are there. But above and beyond that, I want to talk about, Rashad, what solutions do we have? I think we have a responsibility after showing all these problems, which we've showed over and over again, to start giving definitive solutions to what needs to get done.
So a couple of things. I want to walk through some things that I think can be done. And I couldn't agree with you more on not just solutions, but the sort of pathway to getting to solutions, right? Because policies and a plan are nothing without the infrastructure to achieve it, without the people power and the campaigns to actually make the vision of a new day possible. And so, at Color of Change, we have done a couple of things, and it all speaks to what we're trying to do, which is drive the right level of action to force the system to do things the system doesn't want to do. Because right now what we're experiencing is not unfortunate like a car accident. It is unjust. It is manufactured. These are not accidents. They are part of how systems have been designed to work. And so a couple of things. As it relates to COVID, we have built out a platform called the Black Response. The blackresponse.org is our organizing hub where we are translating the sort of outrage and energy of our people to actual action, giving everyday people things that they can do in very clear ways, from the kind of more corporate accountability work of ensuring that grocery stores are actually doing things like taking SNAP benefits for folks for food delivery, so that mothers and fathers are not having to go out the house and risk their children, demanding protection for essential workers, ensuring that Black and brown businesses actually get resources out of this recovery and all the money doesn't go to big businesses, making real demands around testing and health. All of these things that we can both expose the inequalities and then push for real change. As it relates to these issues of police, something we have been in for years. At Color of Change, we've built a long-term strategy of changing the district attorney offices around the country. And this is a long-term effort. It is really focused on sometimes kicking folks out of office and putting people in that can champion our causes. Sometimes we have to put people in office who disappoint us, right? You're in Houston, and we did help put in Kim Ogg in office, who we knew would be better than Devin Anderson. But Kim Ogg has been a huge disappointment, and time again has put has put Black folks and Black communities in harm's way, has prosecuted people for poverty level crimes, has made the criminal justice system a first resort instead of an in resort. And we've had to fight on everything from expanding her office to actually delivering on her promises. But all around the country, we are focused on district attorneys, and particularly as it relates to what's happened with Ahmaud Arbery. We are calling and demanding on those district attorneys to not just resign, but we are working to force the Georgia bar to launch an investigation of these lawyers who did not do their work. We are working to further kind of expose all the ways in which these lawyers put their hands on the scale of justice, did not stand up for Black lives and Black victims. It's far too often that when Black people are victims of crimes, the rules change. The rules change in terms of how prosecution works. And that means that we have to fight for justice. So on both ends, we have a set of demands, right? A larger set of demands, but none of it works without people getting involved. And so for folks who are listening, who are outraged, right? It is not just enough for us to tweet out our frustrations. It's not just enough for us to have conversations about it and post on Facebook. We have to join together for collective action. Right now, the more voices that we can get involved in this effort, the more we can send a message to the folks in Georgia, but also we can support the local folks as they are working to translate some of that energy to voter registration, as they're trying to translate some of that energy to thinking about how they engage in upcoming district attorney elections. All of this will, for us, be really focused on ensuring that we are not just loud and outraged, but we are translating the power that we have in this moment to hold people accountable.
That is so important. With respect to Barnhill, the prosecutor, the DA in Georgia, he prosecuted a woman named Olivia Pearson. And for helping a woman use a voting machine, a Black woman using a voting machine. I hope folks realize that was not an aberration what occurred with Mr. Arbery, but that is a consistency, which means I am happy to hear that you're talking about making sure that DAs like him are removed from office, because they are the genesis, the beginning of the problem, because that is the entry into the criminal justice system. He has that power with him, which hurts us quite a bit. Now, I love what you had to say with respect to engaging people and letting people understand that it's not just posting on Facebook or showing outrage. Like I said, what we want are solutions. That is great with making sure that Kim Ogg and everybody else respond to what we know they must respond to. What do we do about the COVID issue other than restaurant, or other than ensuring the grocery stores are there? How do we, I wrote a piece yesterday talking about a new economy that's going to be coming. We are not going back to what the old economy looks like. The well-to-do people with professions will be able to work at home. They'll be able to do what you and I are doing right now. We are in the safety of a closed location and we can discuss this stuff this way. But there are those who have to go to the grocery stores. There are those who have to do their deliveries, etc. They are going to be still out there without a healthcare system that guarantees that being out there is a risk that we all should be involved in mitigating for them, without them being able to have their kids in a safe place. Where do we make all those ties in now, especially since we're going to have a changed economy when this stuff is all over?
And so we've taken of change. There's the short term, right, around these pieces of legislation which are moving quickly. And you better believe that as I'm having my conversations with Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer and members of the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Progressive Caucus, we are absolutely talking about the long term, but we are recognizing that they're moving quickly on pieces of legislation. So we're trying to lay as much equity into that. And what I mean by equity is that not just laying over solutions that are blanket solutions, but recognizing that because of bad decisions that preceded this crisis and bad decisions that have followed this crisis, it has impacted various communities ways. And so we need to make sure that the recovery actually addresses it. So for instance, sending all the money for small businesses through the big banks will not impact Black and brown businesses, because we recognize all the ways in which the Black businesses and brown businesses have been fleeced, targeted, and attacked and ignored by big banks. It's not that Black people are less likely to get loans. It's that banks are less likely to give loans to Black people. It's not that Black people are the problem here. Black people, in fact, have been the solution. We have been, along with our Latino brothers and sisters and API brothers and sisters, oftentimes disproportionately essential workers. We have been the folks creating all sorts of beautiful spaces on Instagram and other spaces of joy. We have been the folks on the front lines of this recovery, oftentimes talked about as essential workers now, but ignored when public policy was supposed to give us $15 an hour or ensure that we had healthcare in our communities. And so, you know, I live in New York City, where every night at 7 o'clock, people are out on their balconies clapping for folks and cheering for folks that they previously would not fight for. We talk about that as presence without power, visibility and awareness without the ability to change the rules. And so for us, we recognize that we have to layer in through this rapid response work the long-term energy of ensuring that we are thinking about and engaging and fighting for the economy in different ways. That means universal access to healthcare that is at scale, but it's not just access to healthcare sort of in the
abstract,
in the like a theoretical sense. It actually means we need healthcare institutions in our community. We need community health. So it's not just enough that you can go see a doctor if you don't actually have a doctor in your community to see. So we need all those things paired together. We need access to resources and payments to folks to be able to keep people at home in this moment. But beyond, we need to think about all the ways that corporate consolidation, automation, and the use of our data have made it so that jobs that have been shipped away will never come back, and jobs that have changed. And in the richest country in the world, people should have the resources to buy what they need, to be able to take care of their families, you know, with things that they need. We need to actually have a real long-term strategy around housing. I recently hosted an Instagram Live with Julian Castro, who was had one of the more progressive platforms in this last presidential election campaign cycle, and was also the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and really just connected not just housing for housing's sake specifically. We talked about that, but we also talked about it as it relates to the work we have to do immediately to decarcerate our prisons and jails, where social distancing is literally impossible. But if we're only focusing on decarceration now because of COVID, we are missing the part that the United States has 4% of the world's population and 25% of the world's incarcerated population. We already had a mass incarceration problem. And so I hear a lot of people saying, well, COVID has made us more interconnected. And you know, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and I just recently published an op-ed piece in USA Today, where we talked about in that piece together about how what it's actually exposed is that the rich and wealthy can get on jets and in cars and go to beach homes, while some folks are wondering whether or not their water is going to be turned off. And those same people that are sort of off in beach homes are not paying their fair share of taxes into communities that they are sort of reaping the benefits and rewards of, which is why water is getting shut off in the first place. And so part of this does not change without activism. It does not change without us kicking people out of office and putting people in office. It does not change without us holding corporations accountable and holding politicians who side with corporations over the people accountable. All of this is going to take a new level of activism and work to get to the short term and then to build for the long term. And right now, there's a whole set of debates around this next piece of federal legislation that will be coming down the pike. And once that legislation is passed, there are going to be fights in every single state to ensure that the money actually moves equitably. And so for folks in Texas, what you're going to have to recognize is that if you live in Harris County and you live in Houston and surrounding areas, that the governor is not your friend, and that he's going to be doing everything he can to ensure that that money is not moved in an equitable way. He does not want to make Harris County more powerful. And so at the federal level right now, we are fighting to make sure, and I just had a good conversation with Congressman Clyburn, who's also fighting for this, is that to make sure that when they talk about money for cities and states, the money for cities isn't predicated on whether or not the state wants to give it. It actually goes directly to the cities, because we can't, particularly when we think about the disproportionate number of Black people that live in southern states,
right,
oftentimes under governors who have not just ignored, but have attacked them. Like you think about a governor like Kemp in Georgia, who is the voter suppressor in chief of this country. We think about him, and we've got to recognize that he's the narrowly tailored set of businesses that he picked to reopen were businesses where Black and brown people work and Black and brown people go, hair salons, barbershops, bowling alleys. He was basically using Black people as guinea pigs. And so for us at Color of Change, we're recognizing that we've got to fight on many different fronts. And part of why I'm really asking people to join us at the Black Response is because that is a hub. And what you'll see there is a wide range of campaigns, but it gives us the ability, when I go to meet with members of Congress, to say, I've got hundreds of thousands of people who care about this. And these folks will be voting on election day. And we need to send them a message that you're fighting for them, Democrats or Republicans.
Rashad,
yes.
let me hold you there. Tell folks how they can connect there. That's very important.
Yeah, so go to theblackresponse.org, theblackresponse.org. And once you get there, you'll see a range of campaigns. You'll also see a lot of education material, video discussions with folks like Congressman Clyburn and Ayanna Pressley and Pramila Jayapal, all sort of members of Congress. We talked with Stacey Abrams about vote by mail and democracy issues. And so you can get educated about the issues. You can dig in deeper on criminal justice and other things that we're working on. But most importantly, you can take action. You can sign up on those campaigns and join us to take action. And what we've been able to do is take those voices to the halls of Congress, because in this moment, we need to show folks that we've got numbers, because you better believe the corporations are showing up to tell them they've got the money.
We've been talking about that, but Rashad, you said something that is very important, and I want to centralize on that a bit, and I want to make sure, I hope Color of Change and a lot of other organizations start centralizing on it. Specifically, the rich people, that wealthy that you talk about, the corporations that you talk about, they are all built on the back of those people that go out every day, the ones that are most hurt by COVID. So asking or demanding for healthcare or demanding for these different things, it's not a favor. I am constantly trying to express to people that they are doing no favors for the policies that we are asking for. Mm-hmm. They're just taking payments for what is overdue.
Well, corporations are getting bailed out. They're not getting loans. They're getting bailouts, right? When the airline industry got bailed out in 2008, during that crisis, they instead of reinvesting in the airlines and getting all that taxpayers' dollars, instead of stop charging us the extra baggage fees and everything else that if you travel, you sort of know has been sort of a feature of the airlines and a continued feature since 2008, they started buying back their own stocks.
Yes.
Not investing long term, but buying back their own stocks.
It was a way to defeat taxes as well.
Yeah, we would tell everyday people, regular people on Main Street, that they were being irresponsible. But these corporations, they did that. So now the crisis hits again, and these companies don't have the liquidity. So now they're asking for another bailout. People, and Congress is offering everyday people loans. bailing out the corporations with tax dollars and giving us loans with this idea that the economy is going to somehow come back and we'll be able to pay back these loans. It is an absolute trick bag. And we do have to change the way in which we talk about these things. I said it earlier, far too often we talk about systems in a passive voice and talk about people who are oppressed in an active voice. So we will say, Black people are less likely to be hired by tech companies instead of tech companies to exclude Black people from employment. We will say things like, we will say things like, women business owners are less likely to get loans from banks instead of banks are less likely to give loans to women business owners.
Right.
We need to put the onus on the systems and the decision makers that have continued to put us in harm's way. Let's not spend all of our time fixing those who are oppressed, but let's spend our time challenging the oppressor, challenging the systems that have put us in harm's way and building the power to hold them accountable and to change it, right? I hear this thing about vulnerable people all the time, and I have to oftentimes think of vulnerability is a personal trait. When someone is vulnerable, it's a personal trait. I'm feeling vulnerable today, right? People are not vulnerable, right? Latino immigrants are not vulnerable. They are exploited and attacked. Black communities are not vulnerable. They have been targeted, exploited, and attacked. We have to say what we mean so we get what we need. And when we say what we mean, then we build the power to get closer to getting the things that we need. And that has to be part of this effort, because far too often, folks in power would love to spend time trying to fix our families, trying to fix our communities, trying to fix the decisions that we make in our communities, instead of dealing with all of the systems that have continued to exploit. Jeff Bezos has made over $20 billion since this crisis has hit, and Amazon refuses to give their employees paid sick leave at scale and the type of living wage that will take care of them. That is sick. That is a person who is deeply flawed. That is the type of person that we should be asking questions about mental health and other issues, someone that could sit and do that and think it was okay. That is how we have to sort of refocus it. But we spend a lot of time trying to fix people when we know that in the long term won't ever yield the results.
Rashad Robinson, president of Color of Change, and that's the reason I wanted you on. That is well said, and that is how we want to close.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always good to be here. Invite me back anytime. And to my folks in Houston, Harris County, Color of Change is always proud to work with you all. We're going to continue to do the work to hold Kim Ogg accountable, to do criminal justice reform work, and to build more power there. So hopefully folks will join us at colorofchange.org. Join us at the Black Response. When you go to colorchange.org, you'll have an opportunity to sign the petition for Ahmaud Arbery and to join that campaign effort, as well as to do all the work we're doing collectively to respond to the COVID crisis. And it's called the Black Response, but I want people to know that, in America, when Black people win, it is a sign that the country is moving in the right direction for everyone. So Color of Change is a movement of not just Black folks, but allies of Black folks. And so in this moment, if you are an ally and you saw that video of what happened to Ahmaud Arbery, and you are outraged by it, the best way to translate that outrage into something meaningful is to take action. And after you take action with us, pick up the phone and call those in your family who might need to hear from you, who might need to hear a little push, who might need to be challenged about these issues. That's how change happens. So thanks for having me, and let's keep fighting.
Thank you very much, Rashad.
Thanks.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that, folks. I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go ahead, and it seems like I have some people that don't particularly like Rashad. So anyhow, let's go ahead and start taking it. Lawrence Sim says, coronavirus 19. Let's see, China state media propaganda video mock us. Yeah, I don't know if I saw that particular one, but, Anyway, Daniel Ledoux says, stupid Bernie. I wonder why he considers Bernie stupid. Because Bernie decides to ask a question about people that don't have means, making sure that they don't die from this coronavirus when a vaccine is made available, that makes somebody stupid. I want you guys to understand the frame in here. We have so polluted the body politic that doing something good for people, ensuring that a plutocracy do something good for people, makes you stupid. That is how that is how brainwashed our plutocracy, those with power, have really done to minimize those who have little. They even have the little man fighting for them, the one that they give crumbs to whenever they feel like it. Even that person is fighting for them. You know what politics done right is all about? Empowering people so that that mentality in chains do not remain in chains, as we have many people continued with their minds in chains. Okay, Daniel Ledo says only progressives make a problem out of something that has not happened, a vaccine, but when all you have is a race-baiting imaginary race problem is all you have. So the race problem in America is imaginary. Well, you know, it is funny because I remember I'd like you to live in my skin one day and go certain places or be stopped by a cop and see if it's really imaginary to you. The thing about it is, one of the things that many people lack is that thing called empathy, not just to somehow believe, maybe because you are not that way. I don't know, but based on the way you talk, sometimes you actually act like you're that way, but we don't know. New York had hundreds of ventilators in a warehouse, so we buy and why take ventilators from the feds? Again, the Fed has a contract to build ventilators at $3,000 on average. And New York was out of ventilators. That warehouse thing is a right-wing canard. That you guys continue to believe the right-wing canards, it just amazes me. But again, you know, what can I say? If the Georgia shooters wanted to kill the suspect, this is from Lee Grant now. If the Georgia shooters wanted to kill the suspect, they could have done it when he was running towards them. They had him dead to rights. There was only gunfire when the suspect tried to grab the gun, the shotgun. Lee Grant, I wish I could speak to you over the phone because I am, you're here all the time, and that one does people. When I moved to Kingwood and my house was being built, I would show up to my home with all the studs and it's all open, I own the land, right? My house is being built, and people throughout the neighborhoods would come in. They would come into the home. They would come upstairs. They'll walk upstairs, take a look, leave. Everything is fine. No problems. It is common while a house is being constructed, curiosity, people come into the house, take a look. I have people I didn't know was in my house. When I just moved here, I had an internet company that I did. It was dial-up at the time when, you had these BBS systems. So I had about 50 pairs of cable that came right, 25 pairs of telephone cables, and a whole bunch of network cables that came into a closet. It was a big chunk. And every now and then I would be outside and somebody will be walking down the streets and they say, hey, why did you have all those cables going into your house? And the first thing in my mind is like, damn, this person was walking in my house while we were wiring the house up and all of that. Nobody ever thought about blowing anybody's brains out for examining my home. So the new thing is to try to defend these two racist criminals out there, these two racist thugs, these two racist murderers, to try to defend them. People say, oh, well, he was jogging, but he was jogging into that empty home. Of course, the cameras are there that shows he jogs, he looks around like those guys who came into my home and looked around. Nobody thought about calling them a thief or anything, but they came into my home. Dozens of people were in my home while it was building. different times. Nobody said anything. But this black guy goes into an empty home, and somehow now he becomes a suspect. They lied and said that, oh, there were a lot of robberies around. It turns out it's not true, right? But that they lied and said that. So this guy's running out of the house, and he's doing his own thing. He's bothering nobody. Two guys come out. They block him. One truck that's taping, the other truck up forward. And he continues to jog. He jogs around the truck. There's a gun. What is he supposed to do? Sit down and take a bullet or fight? I am so proud of Ahmaud Arbery. He fought going down. Yes, he had a right to hold that barrel. Let me ask you a question in self-defense. If he had drugged that gun out of that person's hands, turned it on that person and shot them, would they have called Arbery's killing of that white guy a defense, personal defense, a defensive act? No, they wouldn't. Even though that's exactly what he was doing. He did absolutely nothing wrong. He got to grab a gun away from an assailant and shot him. Would they have called that self-defense? Probably not. But you see, it's a different law in the country. When you hear this guy says, I released that tape because I thought it would exonerate them. Because if he had just stopped with these two guys saying, stop, I have a gun on you, don't move. Who the hell are they? Who gives them that right to stop an innocent person just going? If I come into your community, whether there's a law that says you can have a citizen's arrest, and I come with a gun and I say stop, am I supposed to stop? Or if I don't stop, you shoot me? Come on, guys, wake up and look. Those of you who think that, those of you who believe that Ahmaud should have stopped because these two white guys told him, hold on, I'm doing a citizen arrest, or that he shouldn't have tried to defend himself from two guys with a shotgun that he doesn't know them. Why? He's in self-defense mode himself. That is how silly the laws are. Again, it would have been great if he had gotten to take that gun away from that guy and shot him and the father and the guy taping. I bet nobody would have been saying that was self-defense, in as much as it would have been self-defense. Okay? So, Lee Grant says if he wanted to shoot the guy, he would have been run. They should have been leaving that guy alone. They had no right to stop that guy, none whatsoever. He's doing his thing and to get shot. Okay, Lee Grant says now, let's see, Lawrence Sims says if they would have handcuffs rather than weapons and wouldn't have blocked him and have forced him to fight for his life, he could have continued jogging and with them following and recording. It's a yes, exactly. Look here. If they wanted to follow him, yes. Now, he could have turned around and hurt them and say, I am concerned about these guys following me. I did this in self-defense. That is how silly the self-defense arguments get. Because anybody who feels threatened, if I am jogging and a truck with two white guys with guns in the back, I am concerned. I used to ride the bike with a whole lot of guys out here. And every now and then, some of these guys in pickup trucks, I would be leading the pack. It would be 20 of us. I'd be leading the pack. And they would pass the pack, and then they'll try to get their mirrors to hit me while I'm riding. Yes, this is Texas sometimes. And the guys I ride with, I mean, a lot of white guys I'm riding with. I remember one of these guys, and he called me just the other day. He's out in Illinois now. He called me and said, Berto, you remember when that happened? I'm like, yeah. They try to hit me. And these guys took off after that truck. And when it went to the stop, they started banging. And I looked at them and I said, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I wouldn't do that because I know I go bang on somebody's truck and they open up and blow my head off. They're going to say, oh, they were doing it in self-defense. And as much as that truck guy tried to run me over. This is America. Lee Grant and Daniel Ledo think it's an imaginary racial thing. My brother, I am a professional. I know a whole lot of stuff. And if somebody like me continue to say, whenever I see a cop, my heart goes into my throat, to think that I have to worry about anybody now. because one can get off. Those guys belong in jail. Those guys belong in jail for the rest of their lives. They took a life. Their lives should be taken away from them. Their liberties should be taken away. Okay, Lawrence Sim, let's say. Daniel Ledo says, whoa, let's not blame the victim here. These good old boys were dead wrong. Of course they were wrong. There's no doubt about that. Lee Grant, they blocked him, and the Smurf vehicle driver forced him to run toward the killer, which gave the killer more than enough time to drop the weapon and fight him like a man who had his dad strapped and yeah, it's so funny there. The gun makes them feel like they have some power. They're a bunch of weenies. All those guys that you see with bazookas and these big guns and all, it's just to make them feel like they have power. By themselves, they're nothing. By themselves, they're nothing. These are people that the plutocracy has destroyed and told them, okay, but you can have a gun. So they take your money. They take your well-being, but they allow you to have a gun. And with that gun, you feel like you have power. It's ridiculous. And by the way, Lee Grant, this isn't black victimization. I don't ever feel like a victim. That doesn't mean that I don't know that other people want to take advantage of you. It's a difference. All right, let's see. Daniel Edo, I did not call Bernie stupid. Yes, you did call Bernie stupid. The words was, what a stupid question, Bernie. Stupid question. Come on. All right, let's see now. Daniel Edo, that's how change happened. I'm not race hustling. A lot of the people, you know what is so funny? When people accuse me of race hustling, my supporters, the people that make politics done right possible, are made up of everybody, and believe it or not, with a majority of white people. Most of the people supporting politics done right are white. Okay? Good people. Of course, I'm in Houston. I'm in America. America is only 13% black and 13% Latino. The vast majority of my supporters are white. Thank you very much. These are good people. Should learn something, Ledo. All right, let's see. Daniel Ledo, I did not call Bernie stupid. Okay, Normal Reynolds. My brother, how you doing, Norman? False racism. Without proof, please drop that line. You have no idea what black and brown people in general experience. Please ask more than one type of person. Of course, you know, Norman, when people talk like that, they know the answers, right? They know the answers. But the answers are too difficult for them to accept. I did not say we don't have a race problem. I called out the false narrative around race that is twice in a span of 4 minutes misrepresented. No, but you have a history, Ledo. You do have a history. Lee Grant, I don't know why Arbery in the house, but burglary of building sites is very common. Yes, I know that. And you know what, though, Lee Grant? Like I said, there are a lot of people in my house as I built this house. As I built my house was a custom wired house. I never thought about blowing somebody's brain out for being on my property. Okay? Daniel Ledo says, I don't know anybody who thinks these white guys were correct and think they should be in jail. This is not the indictment of white America like Egberto Desmer. My white brothers and sisters, have I ever indicted white America, or have I indicted the policies of America? Daniel Ledo, that is where you're wrong. In fact, the reason that you are still here is that I don't indict white America. Think about it. Would you be here? Come on now. Lawrence Sims, why didn't the dad film once the vehicle blocked him? They didn't want audio of what they said and maybe knew that the vehicle behind was recording. Get outside of the box. Lawrence, what can I say? Whoa, you really are a stupid piece of... There's a difference between saying, Bernie, you're stupid, and Bernie, that's a stupid question in the first case. The stupid refers to the man in the second. Like I said, your past statements are probative, including those of what you call me. I mean, it's codified. It's written down what you've called me. Come on, brother. You've called me a lot worse, but it's okay. I still love you. Anyhow, we're coming to the end of the show. So what I need to do is do what I always do, tell you guys. So folks, please remember this is a call-in show today. I screwed up the call-in portion of the show today, but forgive me. Anyhow, what I'd like to ask you to do is go to our store.politicsdoneright.com. Again, that is store.politicsdoneright.com. store.politicsdoneright.com. But what we really would like you to do is start supporting the show with a subscription via Patreon, patreon.com/politicsdoneright.com. Again, I'm not slash politics done right. Look at how I'm getting myself in trouble. So here it is. I'm going to put it in the feed right now. There you go. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. patreon.com/politicsdoneright. You can also support the show by going to our PayPal account, and that you get there by going to paypal.me/politicsdoneright. Again, that is paypal.me/politicsdoneright. Let me go ahead and put the store link in there as well. Get yourself a t-shirt. Get yourself one of our beautiful Politics Done Right mugs. You can even get the ones that has some pictures on it of good people on it as well. But again, please go to store.politicsdoneright.com. Get you a copy of As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. You see, we are fighting for Lawrence Sims. We are fighting for Daniel Ledo. We are fighting for Norman Reynolds. We are fighting for Lee Grant. Because you know what? I'm going to tell you what I fight for in everything that I do. Daniel can do whatever the hell he wants to do. He can call us out. He can try to make us believe that we're race baiting. Like I said, I love everybody. And I'm fighting for everybody. And I'm trying to tell some truths here that's hard for many to accept. Daniel, you are a victim of the system as much as Lawrence Sim, as much as everybody that does not control the plutocracy. And there are mind games that are played continuously. That is the reason I take nothing that you guys tell me personally. Nothing. That's the reason why, Daniel, you see me out there at a field. I'm like, hey, Daniel, are you?